Invest in Yourself podcast, brought to you by Lewis Real Estate at the Lewis Business Center in West Hartford, Connecticut. I am your host, Razul, Wallace. Scott is on vacation for a few weeks, so I'm just going to tell you about myself today. I am a father, a boyfriend, a brother, a son, a friend, an entrepreneur, a guardsman, originally from Brooklyn, New York. I have two immigrant parents from Guyana and Panama, and I went to UConn where I met my ex-wife, and that's what brought me to Connecticut. We had 3 sons, and I'm currently with my girlfriend and partner, and we've been together for approximately 10 years. And in our house, we have a mixed family, a blended family. There's 5 kids, 3 from our previous marriage. She has 1 from a previous relationship, and we have 1 together. 4 boys, and my baby girl is the last one. Business-wise, I am currently in a good place. Personally, I keep my expenses low. I currently own 4 properties, which is down from 7 properties with 21 units at the height, but I actually sold some assets to lighten the load a little bit so that I can kind of shift gears a little bit and be more conscious about building it out, so that I can scale. Because one of the things that happened was that I got capped out in my management capacity with the properties that I had. I think in general, 7 properties, 21 units is very doable for long-term units. But during that process, I ended up taking on a total of 4 short-term rental units, which significantly increased the management. I would equate the management of 1 short-term rental to be equivalent to that of 10 to 15 regular long-term rentals because of how much management is required for it. And I did not take that into account when I took those on, but they were great learning experiences. But where I'm at right now is basically, I don't anticipate selling anything else. I think from here I'm at a good place to just start to build out a more significant structure for everything that I do that will enable me to scale a little bit better moving forward, because it's at the forefront of my mind in everything that I do now, just because I know if I don't, I'm going to eventually get stuck and be limited in what I can do moving forward. Where I started was with the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Around the age of 22 or 23, my mother gave me that book actually, because it was big at that time. And I had no idea how people made a lot of money. I just thought people got high-paying jobs. So that book really opened my eyes to understand why people start businesses and why people invest, because that's where you really make a lot of money. And that was my main focus. When I got out of college, I wanted to travel and experience the world, and I was excited about leaving college and kind of starting my life. But then when I got out, I was like, you need money for everything. So that's what really made me decide, I need to figure out how to make a lot of money, because I want to be able to do what I want when I want. Fast forward, it took a lot of years of trying things and figuring things out to really figure out what I was going to do, or I guess how to just like organize myself in a way to accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish. Save the money, stay focused and constantly put the effort into the things that I wanted to do. Um, and I really started once I got divorced with my first three family that I moved into. And it was really a necessity, and I think I might have mentioned it before, or I probably will mention it again in the future, but when I got divorced, I was making like $2,200 a month working at the bank, and I had to give 1,000 of it to my ex-wife, so I had to live off of $1,200 a month, and that three family was really the only way I was going to be able to survive, and that was part of the arrangement that I had with my ex-wife, that because I was going to buy it as my first investment while we were together, but when we decided to split, we just agreed the amount that I would give her for child support, and that would be separate and apart from our divorce conversation. And but that enabled me to live because the income from that property was $1,600 a month, and the mortgage was $1,200. So I essentially could live for free and pay the utilities and set aside a little bit of funds for incidentals as they came up with the property, and then I could budget my little $1,200 for the rest of the month. And then that was in 2015, and then it took me 3 years to figure out how to acquire my next property. And then, so that was 2018 that I acquired property number 2. In 2019, I acquired property number 3. In 2020, I acquired 2 properties. 2021 was I was in the military. I was doing a lot with COVID, and then I got a deployment, so not much happened in 2021. But in 2022, I acquired 2 more properties also. So I got pretty proficient at figuring out how to acquire properties. But like I said, after a point, I got capped in my management or my ability to manage things myself. So that's when scaling and process became significant or at the forefront of my mind. So where I'm going is in 2025, we're going to be acquiring some property to build from the ground up, and we're going to be focusing on composting, farming, and building. We might do some acquisitions also. We're going to be doing this podcast. So there's a lot on the plate, but it's doable. It's just really a matter of figuring out how to accomplish everything. And that's all with process and getting help from a lot of different people and figuring out how everybody's going to benefit and how everybody's going to contribute. That's always one of the first things that conversations you have. And it's not an easy conversation, but it's absolutely necessary. And sometimes it happens over a number of conversations, like feeling each other out, being forward, but not too forward, and not trying to be disrespectful, but wanting to talk out, because it can be a sensitive thing to discuss. So, but it's absolutely necessary, and it's one of the things that is heavy on my radar, I'll say. So that's where we're going, and the plans for 2025. The title of the show is Invest in Yourself. So one of the things that we'll be asking our guests is to tell us about some of the biggest investments in themselves that they've made, and how that has impacted them in their trajectory. I have a couple that I want to talk about because they were very influential in my development and where I'm at. The first one was going to be this investment that I made I started at the age of 12. I went to Hicksville Middle School and I wrestled, and the wrestling coach gave us this really simple piece of advice. He said, if you want to get stronger, just do a certain amount of push-ups today and just try to do one more tomorrow. And I really took that to heart, and I did push-ups every day for like 2 years from the age of like 12 to 14. And that was my goal, to just add one more every day. I would do one set every day for, I can't remember the time frame. And then I added one, and then eventually I said, I'm gonna do 2 sets. And then I said, I'm gonna do 3 sets. So little by little over time, I started with that one set, but it just, as time went on, I got gradually increased, and I was like, well, I want to hit something else. So I'm just, doing these body parts. Let me add something else. And then gradually over time, I started adding and learning and understand about, like, developing muscle strength, or whatever you want to call it. But that daily investment, which in the start was like not even a minute a day, really became significant in who I was as a person, because it added. I mean, one, by the time I got to high school, I was probably one of the strongest kids in my grade or at the school, which helped greatly with football. And football, I ended up getting a scholarship for it, and it that simple piece of advice from that coach. And I've been wanting to find that coach, let him know, but I can't remember his name. I have no idea where he is, but that piece of advice was like significant for me. So that was an investment in myself that over the years it added up to a ton of time. But to start, it was like something so small and so simple as just being consistent in that one thing. So that was, I would say, the first big significant investment in myself that I made. I think after that, one of the biggest ones that comes to mind is investing in a mentorship program with CT Connecticut Real Estate Investment Association. And the lead mentor was Linda Baumgartner. She taught us a bunch, and I joined CT because it was recommended by Bigger Pockets Podcast. They recommended joining a real estate investment association, and Connecticut Real Estate Investment Association was the biggest, most prominent one in Connecticut. Well, in the area that I knew of. So, that's where I went, and the cost of the program was a little over $6,000. And at the time, I had saved $16,000. I was already in my 3-family. I had saved $16,000. Part of it might have been some from my bonus of joining the Guard, and some of it. And then my sister just left her job, and she had about $16,000 from her retirement account that she just was like, let's just do something with it. So we had $32,000 together, and so that class or course, the mentorship course, I was like, dang, if I spend $6,000 out of 32, then we'll have 26. And I'm like, what if we need 30 for whatever opportunity we come up with? Then I will be at a loss, and I will have made the wrong decision. I was in my head. But the one thing that had recently come to my mind or on my radar is that you have to put yourself in the environment of people that are doing the things that you want to do. So that kept playing in my head, and when I talked to Linda about it, I let her know where I was at and my concern, and what she told me was, with what you learn in this course, it'll be way more impactful for you than what you will be able to do with that $6,000. So I heard her out. I slept on it for a night or two, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna take the leap of faith. I'm gonna invest in this course, and I'm going to, just take it and pray that we'll still have enough to make whatever first investment opportunities come our way. And she was right. I'm so glad that I listened to her and that I took it, because that investment what I learned in that course. The thing about the investing in the course is that not only do you have to what makes it scary is not only do you lay out the money, right, but you have to invest the time to go to the courses, to absorb the knowledge, and then to apply it. You have to have that faith in yourself that I am gonna do everything that I'm supposed to do to really take advantage of these funds. So it's scary, because not only are you unsure of the information you're going to get, how much value it's going to have, but also, you kind of have to be like, well, I also, don't want to waste this money. I have to be accountable to it myself. And, then you kind of, there's that whole aspect of it that I fought with, the internal fear, doubt, hesitation that I felt about making that investment. But I took the leap of faith and I said, I'm just going to. And I was at the point where I was so hungry that, like, every day I'm like, what am I doing today to get me towards where I want to be? Like, I had that feeling every day. So I was like, I felt like I was there. I wasn't like, too distracted. I had that feeling every day. Like, I know, like, I'm okay. I have a roof. I have food, but this isn't where I want to be. And I felt that very strongly. And every day I had that feeling like, what am I doing to get me to where I want to be? And it's not just like busy work, but I had a good dial on what the next step was going to be to get me to move forward. And that was essentially finding a good opportunity. So what I learned in this course was about, figuring out how to find good opportunities, essentially, how to put it together, get it under contract, and then, basically get the money together. Because before that course, I always felt like I had to have the money, myself, or, with someone close, which I learned a lot in the class. Without the class, I wouldn't have been able to acquire the next property I got, the third property I got. 4 and 5, I probably would have, but after that, properties number 6 and 7. One of them I used the techniques, and one was on the market. So it was a good mix, and so that investment really solidified the idea of investing in myself, and I try to do some personal investment every year in some type of education or other. I also invest in people and people's time and energy and knowledge and expertise. But those, as I'm talking about it, I'm recognizing a lot of other investments that I make, but those are the two foremost that come to mind. So best and worst investments, I would say that those investments in myself were probably two of the best. Some actual real property investments were very good also. None of them, not there's not one single tangible investment that I've made that could match the investment that I made, the personal investments in myself that I've made as far as the return on investment. So that's why I think it's cliche, but it's so significant, the idea of investing in yourself. Worst investments, I think I talk about, there was one where we started a mining company without any experience in mining. We got a bunch of family and friends on board, and they invested a bunch of money. And, we basically failed. We weren't able to accomplish what we thought we could. And we lost everybody's money. That's still one of the hardest pills to swallow. Shoot, it's been about 15 years now since we shut the doors. And we're getting over it. I love the friends and family that invested, the trust that they gave to us. I'm really disappointed that we lost their money, and some I still have a hard time looking in the eyes. But, I know from my perspective, I tried what was my best at that time. My best would be a lot better now. And there's just a lot of lessons that I learned from it and things that I would do better now. So I'm coming up on raising money again. But it's in a field that I know and know well, and it's not something I haven't done before. Some of the lessons from that first loss I'm carrying with me. And for example, one is invest in something you know. I didn't know anything about mining, but I've gained some really good experience about real estate. analysis, acquisition, and management over the years. So it's something that I know. That's one of the biggest lessons that I've taken. And if you want to get into something you don't know, do it with people that know what they're doing, at least to start. So that was one of the worst investments. And a couple of other small ones I'll mention were just, but it didn't end up being bad. Like I had some different investments with cousins that ended up costing me, and they were. I'll take them as good learning experiences, and experiences where I know that I'd never have to give them money again, based on how it turned out. So those are the benefits that came with those. With that being said, another question is, how conscious are you about intentionally creating your environment, and in what ways you do that? So I think that every human being is essentially just a compilation of what goes into them. It's essentially their environment, what you eat, what you drink, what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, that all is what, you know, aggregates to this massive material energy that we call Razul. So with that being said, I've become way more conscious about my environment and putting myself in places with people who are doing the things that I want to do. And that's the biggest, I think it's one of the easiest way to change who you are is to put yourself around people that you admire and want to be like. Because then it starts to happen kind of almost subconsciously. And that's a way of kind of putting yourself in the flow of the river or ocean you want to be in, as opposed to like what a lot of people might say is like grind culture, where you kind of go against the grain of whatever's going on around you, and you have to like fight and push for every little advancement that you make. I find that to me is a much simpler and just easier way to kind of get to where you want to go. So I'm very conscious of and intentional about my environment and who I spend time with. And I've become I used to get frustrated, but I've become a lot better at just seeing who people are, not what they say, and then making my decisions based off of that. Before I used to I'm still working on it, but I would get like just really frustrated when things weren't going or people weren't doing what I thought they should be doing. So with that being said, I am way more conscious about my environment. Best practices and principles to live by. So it used to be just take one step at a time, right? Just whenever I'm trying to get someplace, I would just figure out what's the next thing I got to do that, and then what's the next thing I got to do that. So it used to be just one step, put one foot in front of the other, and just go, which it still is. I don't want to say that it's not, but I think what I've added to that is that I've become a lot more process conscious, and to be more specific, what I mean by that is if I have something that I want to do, an objective that I want to meet, or something I want to create, obviously I have to consider the outcome that I'm looking for. But I really more think about what it looks like on a day-to-day basis, how it impacts my schedule, what I have going on. Do I have time for this in my schedule? What amount of time, daily, weekly, or monthly, do I need to put time and energy do I need to put into this thing to get it to where I go, and then understand it. So for that I got to understand what goes into it, as far as time, energy, money, or any other resources. And then more significantly, I've been thinking about who can help me with this.
Because I've also learned that you can't grow anything significant by yourself. You can do things quickly and you can get to a point, but like that old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So everything I'm doing now, I'm thinking, what needs to get done and who can help me to do it to get there. So practices and it goes with one piece of advice when aspiring entrepreneur business owner is envision what you want your life to look like first, and then fit your business into your life, not your life into your business. Because I think that we work to live. We don't live to work. And I think that in our society and world today, that's kind of become it seems to be the way that we live, you know? So I think if I had to sum it up, I would just say to think about the process, become more process censored than outcome censored. And with that, I think that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. And next week, we will be back with some other guests to talk out their ideas on themselves and how best to invest in themselves to create the life that they want to create.